भी देखना है तो मुझे जरूरी नहीं मैं पहले से बता दूं कि मुझे वहां इंस्पेक्शन के लिए जाना है, तो फिर तो सब कुछ ठीक ठाक हो ही जाएगा। मैं ड्रोन भेज दूं, पता वही लेकर के आ जाता है और उनको पता तो नहीं चलता कि मैंने जानकारी ले ली है। साथियों, गांव में भी किसान के जीवन को आधुनिक सुविधाजनक अधिक संपन्न बनाने में भी ड्रोन टेक्नोलॉजी महत्वपूर्ण भूमिका निभाने वाली है। आज गांवों में अच्छी सड़कें पहुंची हैं, बिजली पानी पहुंचा है, ऑप्टिकल फाइबर पहुंच रहा है, डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी का अभूतपूर्व विस्तार हुआ है। लेकिन फिर भी गांव में जमीन से जुड़े, खेती से जुड़े अधिकतर काम के लिए पुराने सिस्टम से काम चलाना पड़ता है। उस पुराने सिस्टम में हर प्रकार का वेस्टेज है, परेशानियां भी बहुत है और प्रोडक्टिविटी तो पता नहीं सही नहीं कर पाते, कुछ हुआ कि नहीं हुआ। इसका सबसे अधिक नुकसान
राष्ट्रीय खेलों के
काम के लिए पुराने सिस्टम से काम चलाना पड़ता है। उस पुराने सिस्टम में हर प्रकार का वेस्टेज है, परेशानियां भी बहुत है और प्रोडक्टिविटी तो पता नहीं सही नहीं कर पाते, कुछ हुआ कि नहीं हुआ। इसका सबसे अधिक नुकसान हमारे गांव के लोगों को होता है, हमारे किसानों को होता है और उसमें भी ज्यादा हमारे छोटे किसानों को होता है। छोटे किसान की जमीन और उसके संसाधन इतने नहीं होते कि वो विवादों को चुनौती दे पाए और कोर्ट कचहरी कर पाए। अब देखिए, लैंड रिकॉर्ड से लेकर सूखा, बाढ़ राहत में, फसल के डैमेज तक हर जगह रेवेन्यू डिपार्टमेंट के कर्मचारियों पर ही व्यवस्था निर्भर है। ह्यूमन इंटरफेस जितना अधिक है उतना ही अधिक भरोसे की भी कमी हो जाती है। अब उसी में तो विवाद पैदा होते हैं, विवाद होते हैं तो समय और धन की बर्बादी भी होती है। इंसान के अंदाजे से आकलन होते हैं तो उतना सटीक अंदाजा भी नहीं लगता। इन सारी मुश्किलों से पार पाने का ड्रोन अपने आप में एक सशक्त प्रभावी माध्यम के रूप में एक नया टूल हमारे सामने आया। साथियों, ड्रोन टेक्नोलॉजी कैसे एक बड़ी क्रांति का आधार बन रही है, इसका एक उदाहरण पीएम स्वामित्व योजना भी है। इस योजना के तहत पहली बार देश के गांवों की हर प्रॉपर्टी की डिजिटल मैपिंग की जा रही है। डिजिटल प्रॉपर्टी कार्ड लोगों को दिए जा रहे हैं। इसमें ह्यूमन इंटरवेंशन कम हुआ है और भेदभाव की गुंजाइश खत्म हुई है। इसमें बड़ी भूमिका ड्रोन की रही है। थोड़ी देर पहले मुझे भी स्वामित्व ड्रोन उड़ाने का, उसकी टेक्नोलॉजी समझने का अवसर मिला है। थोड़ी देर उसके काम भी लग गए। मुझे खुशी है कि ड्रोन की मदद से अभी तक देश में लगभग 65 लाख प्रॉपर्टी कार्ड जनरेट हो चुके हैं और जिसको ये कार्ड मिल गया है उसको संतोष है कि हाँ, मेरे पास मेरा जितनी जमीन है मेरे पास सही डिटेल मिल गई। पूरे संतोष के साथ उन्होंने इस बात को कहा है। वरना हमारे यहाँ अगर छोटी सी जगह की नपाई भी होती है तो उस पर सहमति बनाने के लिए सालों साल लग जाते हैं। साथियों, आज हम देख रहे हैं कि हमारे किसान ड्रोन टेक्नोलॉजी की तरफ तेजी से आकर्षित हो, उनमें एक उत्साह दिख रहा है, वो इसे अपनाने के लिए तैयार है। ये ऐसे ही नहीं हुआ है, ये इसलिए है क्योंकि पिछले 7-8 साल में जिस तरह कृषि क्षेत्र में टेक्नोलॉजी का इस्तेमाल बढ़ाया गया है, उस वजह से टेक्नोलॉजी किसानों के लिए हवा नहीं रह गई है। और एक बार किसान को देखता है, थोड़ा अपने हिसाब से उसका लेखा जोखा कर लेता है और अगर उसका विश्वास बैठ गया तो स्वीकार करने में देर नहीं करता। अभी मैं बाहर जब किसानों से बात कर रहा था तो मध्य प्रदेश के एक इंजीनियर मुझे बता रहे थे कि मुझे तो लोग अब ड्रोन वाला करके ये बुलाते, बोले मैं इंजीनियर हुआ लेकिन अब तो मेरी पहचान ड्रोन वाले की हो गई। उन्होंने मुझे कहा साहब देखिए, मैंने उनको कहा कि आप क्या भविष्य क्या देखते हैं, तो उन्होंने मुझे कहा साहब देखिए जो पल्सीज मामला है ना हमारे यहाँ, उसकी खेती बढ़ेगी और उसके कारण एक ड्रोन होगा। मैंने कहा कैसे? उन्होंने कहा पल्सीज की खेती होती है तब उसकी फसल की ऊंचाई ज्यादा हो जाती है, तो किसान अंदर जाकर के दवाई ववाई के लिए उसका मन नहीं करता है, मैं कहाँ जाऊंगा, वो छिड़काव करता, आधी तो मेरे शरीर पे पड़ती है, और बोले इसलिए उस फसल की तरफ वो जाता ही नहीं है। बोले अब ड्रोन के कारण ऐसी जो फसलें हैं जो मनुष्य की ऊंचाई से भी कभी कभी ऊंची होती है, ड्रोन के कारण उसकी देखभाल, उसकी दवाई का छिड़काव बोले इतना आसान होने वाला है कि हमारे देश का किसान आसानी से पल्सिस की खेती की तरफ जाएगा। अब ये व्यक्ति गांव के अंदर किसानों के साथ जुड़ने के साथ काम करता है, तो ये चीजें कैसे बदलाव आता है उसका अनुभव उसको सुनने को मिलता है। साथियों आज
A very good evening to all. I, Dr. Utkarsha Gavare, Vice President of Just Agriculture, the magazine, warmly welcomes you all to the third day of Drone Manthan. Today, we have with us the team of Beagle. I think the guests are yet to join. So before that, the supporters will be continuing the session. As we know, drone tech is getting popular in India. Our farmers are using drones in agriculture, and it will generate the employment in India. And its example is 10,000 plus registrations in our training. It's our attempt to contribute towards the nation's development. So now, as Mr. Ajit Narayan has joined, I would like to ask him to join the session and carry forward the session, please, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Tasha, for the warm welcome. Hi, everyone. So I am Ajit Narayanan, and I have alongside with me Pooja. Pooja, can you give a hi? You're on mute, I guess.
Hello, hi everybody. Good evening.
So bit of introduction about myself. So I worked with Beagle Agritech in 2021 for an year during my undergraduation. I did my undergraduation from University of Agricultural Sciences, Bangalore, post to which I'm currently doing my MBA in Food and Agribusiness Management at IIM Ahmedabad. Pooja, you can give your introduction.
Hi everybody. So I'm Pooja B. So I was a business developer in Beagle Agritech last year. I was working with Beagle Agritech, and now I have joined agribusiness management in National Institute of Agriculture Extension Manage. You might have heard Manage from Hyderabad. So we are a team of Beagle Agritech. So actually, Mr. Havyas and Nitin was supposed to join, but then I think they will be joining us very soon. But then let's start the session. So if everybody, I mean, if people are comfortable, you can on your video as well. And I think few of them are connecting to audio. We can wait for a minute and we can start the session.
So Pooja ma'am, should we have an interactive session? So that I can ask the participants to unmute themselves.
Sure. It would be great if people unmute themselves.
Yeah, okay. Participants, kindly raise their hands if you have to interact with them so that I can unmute you.
Utkarsha ma'am, it would be very good if people can unmute by themselves.
Ma'am, it will be a disturbance because many of the
Okay.
participants will try to unmute themselves at a time.
Right.
There's Gaurav Kumar who has raised his hands. Mr. Gaurav, you can just go on. Mr. Gaurav Kumar, you are already unmuted. You can go on with your query or question, whatever you want to ask.
हाँ मैम नमस्कार, मैं गौरव कुमार पंतनगर यूनिवर्सिटी से। आवाज आ रही है मेरी?
Yeah.
जी,
You
आ
are
रही है।
audible.
यस हाँ मैम नमस्कार, और मैं सभी को नमस्कार करता हूँ। गुड इवनिंग टू ऑल। और मैं गौरव कुमार हूँ पंतनगर यूनिवर्सिटी से, जीबी पंत यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर एंड टेक्नोलॉजी। और मुझे ये बेहद खुशी है कि जो ड्रोन का हमारा कोर्स हो रहा है, और क्योंकि अभी तक फर्स्ट ईयर सेकेंड ईयर मेरा फाइनल ईयर है एग्रीकल्चर इंजीनियरिंग से, तो अभी तक ऐसा कोई सब्जेक्ट हमें पढ़ाया नहीं गया है। और हाँ ये है कि विद द हेल्प ऑफ नाहेप, अपने पंतनगर यूनिवर्सिटी में भी नाहेप है, उसकी हेल्प से बीच में एक दो बार कोर्स हुआ है ड्रोन का। और अब जो ये कोर्स हो रहा है, तो ये सिर्फ मैं सिर्फ ये बताने के लिए मैंने हैंड राइज किया है कि जो हमारे साथ के जिन्होंने भी इसमें पार्टिसिपेट किया है, वही आपस में बैठ के हम शायद मीटिंग कर रहे थे कि ये काफी अच्छा कोर्स है, और अगर ये हो सके, मे बी पॉसिबिलिटी, तो ये 7 डेज की जगह कभी अगर 70 डेज का भी हो तो हम उसमें पार्टिसिपेट करेंगे। और जैसे ये फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट है, तो उसमें अगर कभी ऐसा होता है कि कुछ पे भी करना पड़े, तो देन हम करने के लिए रेडी हैं, उसमें ऐसा नहीं है। और मेरा क्वेश्चन ये है मैम कि जैसे अभी हमने 7 डेज का हम ड्रोन का कोर्स कर लेते हैं, तो इसको हम वर्किंग में कैसे लाएं, क्योंकि देखिएगा हमारे यहाँ कोई कोर्स नहीं है।
Thanks a lot, Gaurav, for the question. So, Utkarsha, I just have a different proposal. We will do our presentation. We have a presentation with us. So once we finish the presentation, then audience can raise their hand and they can ask the question. So in that case, I mean, we would be able to convey the message that we have, and also we can take up the question of Gaurav at the end of the presentation, right?
Yeah, sure, sir. You can just go with the presentation first.
Sure. Thanks a lot. Yeah, Pooja, I think you can share the screen and you can start the presentation.
Yes, just a second. So before sharing the screen, I just want to know how many of you all here are from agriculture background. Utkarsha ma'am, I just want to know the audience before starting the presentation.
Ma'am, actually we have a mixed group of audience. Basically,
Okay.
maximum means 99% we can say are from agriculture background. The
That's
least
great.
are from other sectors of other than agriculture.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll share the screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Pooja, it is visible.
So, okay. So I before starting the session, I are well aware of drone technology, as in, what are the uses of drone and what are the emerging technologies which drone is upbringing in agriculture. So anybody else from the crowd? Anyone from the crowd?
Ma'am, actually there are many hands are raised.
Okay.
But
That's great to
I
know.
think as Ajit sir has said that we should go with the presentation first and then we'll go for the interaction session. If you don't mind, we can do that.
We can do that. I'm just asking if there is an option for interactive session, as in, hand in hand with both the audience and the host can talk. Is there an such option?
Yeah, means we have given the options. They can just they have raised their hands. I can just unmute one by one and they can have an interaction.
Yes. Can you please unmute one or two, so that I just want to give an know the idea of what audience
yeah,
know.
okay. So Mr. Sunil Shinde, I can see your hand raised. I'll just ask. Okay, you can just unmute yourself and go with the talk. Mr. Sunil Shinde. Okay, next is Shubham Singh Panwar. Kindly unmute yourself and go with the talk, please.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, Sunil. Please go ahead.
Drone can be used beyond spraying for thermal images and many other prospects, like we can use it for different purposes, like
Right. You covered one of the major, agenda of drones, so thermal imaging. Right. So I'll just start with the presentation. So I'll just introduce what Beagle Agritech is doing. So Beagle Agritech is a startup which was started in the year 2019. So they are basically farm intelligence company working towards the democratization of agriculture. So, like, what democratization of agriculture means? So, democracy in agriculture is nothing but it covering 3 A's. Like, first one is affordability, accessibility, and availability. So, making the technologies available, accessible, and affordable is the main agenda of Beagle Agritech. So, you know that how startups are emerging lately, and we also know that in agriculture, the startups are also emerging. So among most of the emerging startups, Beagle Agritech is one of them. So currently what Beagle Agritech is doing is it is basically working on drones. So we have heard about DAAS, like drone as a service. So Beagle Agritech is collecting data, giving drone services, and also on data analytics. So we have see, first we know that drones were used earlier. They were used in imaging photos, but they were used in non-agriculture area. But coming to agriculture, the emergence started very lately, as in like some 10 from 10 years from back. From last 10 years, we have seen the boom in the drone usage in agriculture technology. So coming towards the reason, like why suddenly the drone technology is emerging and booming, unlike how it was before. So the first reason we could say is that the affordability. It was very expensive, and now through innovations and through modifications, the cost of production of drones have come down comparatively. And the second one is that the ease of doing business, as in the government intervention was very much, and there were a lot of license and all that will be explained further. So there were very long procedure to and for anybody to take up drone. So that is one big reason why drones were not very much in popularity in back then. Now the number of license which one has to take has come down. So that is one major reason why drones are gaining popularity. And you know that Narendra Modi ji also has given a lot of importance to drone in agriculture. So it can bring a tremendous change in agriculture. We nowadays have heard a lot about spraying, spraying of fertilizers, spraying of pesticides. And basically spraying is what comes to our mind when we imagine drones in agriculture. But there is a lot beyond spraying. Beagle Agritech is doing a drone service beyond spraying. So there are already a lot of drone companies in India which are focusing on spraying. We have seen we know that there are a lot of drone companies, but then majorly they are into spraying, and alongside they do other activities of agriculture. But then there was no as such startup or a company which was completely into drone, which was completely into agriculture. So Beagle Agritech is one of the pioneer, we could say, which is doing drone services beyond spraying. So let's without wasting much time, let's go on to the presentation. So drone in agriculture beyond spraying. So I welcome once again to the drone Manthan session for all the participants here. So 1 second, I'll just change the slide. So, okay, now what is drone beyond spraying? Like, what are the services which drone can offer beyond spraying? So that is first main. There are three major things what drone can do apart from spraying. First one is farm surveillance, and the second one is seed bombing and forest management. Under farm surveillance, you can, as one of our audience told, imaging, thermal imaging. So surveillance will come, imaging is one of the factor which will come under farm surveillance, and and as we go on further, we'll learn a lot about farm surveillance. What are the factors what are the services which will come under farm surveillance, and drone for seed bombing. We know that deforestation has been the very major issue for climate change. So in order for afforestation, drones are used lately, and seed bombing is one of the one of the services which is majorly on focus, and also there are a lot of R&D going on in drones in seed bombing, and the same applies for drone for forest management as also, like tree counting, and if there are any fire catch which has happened in any forest, to know the what are the condition of what is the condition of the forest, how many trees are burnt, and what are the measures which can be taken. So these are the things which can which drone helps us to find out, and also to afforestation. So seed bombing and forest management. Seed bombing, as I said, it is usually used in forests, but also can be used in very large area, and it is not recommended for very small area. So going on to the next, like under farm surveillance, we can see there are majorly 5 functions which drones can do. 5 applications of drone images in agriculture. So farm surveillance. See, first, when we think about farm surveillance, what comes to our mind is disease and pest infestation, which are almost 60% responsible for the yield loss in agriculture. So coming to drone surveillance, crop damage examination is the first application. Drone can, with the help of AI and ML, drone can identify the damaged area of the field, and can help us give the data, so that we can, everyone might have heard about precision agriculture. So the crop damage examination is one of the major factor under precision agriculture. So instead of spraying the necessary pesticides to all the crops, it's always good to identify the necessary area, area of concentration, or area of we can say the most how would I say, like, okay, the area which has to be concentrated a lot. So that is one thing, crop damage examination, through which we can apply fertilizers and pesticides, basically pesticides. And pest zone identification, the same. Crop damage, under crop damage, it comes pest and disease, and also through abiotic stress. So these all comes under crop damage examination. Under pest zone examination, it's very particularly about pest, like what kind of pest and what kind of damage it is making, and through the damage we can identify what pest attack it is, so that we can spray the necessary pesticides. It's a precautionary measure, basically. So that is one, pest zone identification. And then comes crop counting. So in order to estimate the total yield, if we have an acre of land, if we want to know how much yield which can be come out of our 1 acre of land, crop counting is one major factor which will help us understand the total yield of the acre, and it can be calculated for an year also. so that we can also, if we can understand that the intensity of cropping, if it is low or high, based on that we can plan our future cropping pattern. So that one is about crop counting. This drone can help us basically count the number of crops and also the fruits of the crop respectively. And weed monitoring. Weed is one of the biggest problem of agriculture, I would say, like after pest and diseases. So which also consumes lot of labors. So cost of cultivation increases mainly because of labor charges. We know that. So weed monitoring is one of the application which drone does, so that if we get to know that weed is emerging in this area, we can instantly stop before it emerges all over the field. So that weed monitoring it can do, and also moisture analysis. So we know that soil moisture content is very like the critical thing for the crop growth, for the intake of food, and for the growth of fruits, vegetables, and also for the vegetative health of the plants. So moisture analysis is one important factor which is very must in order to understand the health of the crop. So with the help of sensors fixed in drone, it can estimate the moisture of the soil, so that if the soil is in a appropriate condition for the growth of the plants. So these are the main applications of drone imaging in agriculture, which comes under farm surveillance, as we saw earlier. So I would stop here for a second, and I would ask if this can be continued. If everybody is okay with the presentation, like if it is audible properly. Can I know?
Yes, ma'am, it's audible.
Okay.
You can continue.
Okay.
You can continue, Pooja.
So that was basic applications of drones. So moving on to next. So we know that in agriculture, what people used to do earlier. Like, see, these are the things which are emerging and which we have new, which is currently new in the market. But then what used to people do earlier? Anybody? Oh, unfortunately, this is, anybody wants to answer? Like, how people used to calculate or estimate or analyze data earlier before drones into agriculture? Any raised hands? Utkarsha ma'am, you can just let anybody unmute themselves. Or you can unmute if it's okay.
Okay, ma'am. Okay. We'll let them unmute themselves.
Yeah.
Pooja, I think you can continue with the presentations. I don't see anyone unmuting as of now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, which is better for agriculture? Like basically to come to this question, I would want to answer the question I asked. So basically before drone data, what people and what companies and what researchers used to get data is basically from satellites. So satellite data is what was used earlier to estimate the total yield, to understand the pest infestation, and to understand the damaged area of the land. So satellite data was the major source to go for all the customers or companies or the researchers. So now drone data is being introduced. So now this question applies: which is better for agriculture, satellite data or drone data? Yes, I'll just go with the presentation. I'll just change the slide. Yeah. So the basic, you can see the list of factors which drones contribute and satellite contribute. So the major difference here we can see is that the accuracy factor. You can see the fourth point here, 90% accuracy in vegetation index reports. So recently one company, I would not reveal the name of the company, but then recently they took a satellite data to estimate the yield estimation basically from satellite data. It was not up to the mark, like it was around 60%, but then when they used the drone data, it was around 91% of accuracy. So that is one major difference between satellite and drones. And as the accuracy factors will depend on absolute value and relative values. So it is basically the relative value which satellite takes, and drone give much accurate value. And drones, as you can see here, it is recommended for all the crops. Like all the crops as in which requires precise data. Like for particular crop, you can use the drones, but satellite on the other hand, you can't use it for precise crops or any single crops. It usually will be a vague analysis, so it will not give a precise report. So that is what it is recommended for extensive crop, as in like very intensive cultivation, so of not basically not for precise crops. And that is one difference. And it is drones are, so coming to this factor, economic factor. So drones are not as of now very affordable for the small area of land. So it usually costs around 400 to 500 rupees per acre for for an acre. But then it will not be very feasible for 2 acres or 3 acres. On the other hand, the satellite data, you can always get it for small area from the satellite itself. So drones will be very cost effective if you have a very large area of land. This can also be said as one of the drawback of drones, so economic factor. So that is one major disadvantage which people are working on, research and developers, so to cut down the cost. So the drone manufacturers are working on this basically to cut down the cost of drones, so that the drone services, once we give it to farmers, so that the per acre cost also decreases. So it is less economical in case of small land. It is and satellite on the other hand, you can get the data for the very small land as well. The cost is comparatively less. And the here, as you can see, the fourth point, data captured below the clouds. So drone can be used on on the level of our eyes as well, that is below clouds itself, right? So it can capture the data from very near, but that is not in case of satellite. And it is kind of climate resistance when we not completely, but comparative to satellite, drones are very much climate resistant. So one drawback, as I told, was that economic factor, drones. And the second drawback would be this only, like it is still a if it's raining and all, we can't really use drones, and if there is a heavy wind, we can't use the drones. So this is the second drawback of drones. But then comparatively, the satellites are totally dependent on climate. If there are clouds, you can't get exact data. But then on the other hand, you can use drones if there are such weather conditions also. But the extremities, till now, the research and development is been going on. So that is one thing. And as I told, 90% accuracy and 60% accuracy, that is basically because of the first point, absolute values and the relative values which drones and satellites give. And you can see the last point, maximum precision of 4 centimeter for extensive crop, and it is 10 meters. So that, the precision, the precisiveness of the drones is very accurate and very more compared to satellites. So this is what differentiates from satellite. Drones differentiate from satellite. So moving on to the next, I think Ajit, can you take over this?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pooja. So right now here, we would look at one aspect of drone, that is imaging. So what images can we get from drone? So drone has a lot of uses, and one of the uses is you capture images, and it is used in different institutions. For example, it's used in forest department to count the number of trees. It is used in agriculture to assess whether the crop is healthy or not, and monitor the progress and apply all the precision farming techniques. And it is even used by military agents. But right now we would be just be focusing on the agri and allied uses. Next slide, please. Uh, yeah, I think Havyas has joined as of now. Okay, anyways, I'll continue. There are three kind of images that we get from drone. One is the RGB images, second is the multispectral images, and the third is thermal images. So the RGB images is the red, green, and blue images that tells you an indication whether the crop is healthy or not. And then the multispectral images, which provides you different bands of light and different bands of color that lets you know like how many number of trees are there and sorts of things. And on the thermal images, you get to know whether you can differentiate between one form of thing with another. Moving on. Yeah, so you might be mostly familiar with this wavelength that is charted out here, which is mostly there in the 12th standard, 10th standard textbook that we have. So only a small portion of this wavelength spectrum, it is visible in the visible spectrum, that is between 380 nanometer to about 750 nanometer. But then the wavelength that a drone can capture is beyond this. So that is the reason, exact reason why it can assess the health of the plant, which we in our naked eyes cannot. So there are three types of imaging that a drone does, which I have already explained. That is the RGB, multispectral, and the hyperspectral. So RGB, you can see it gets you the image in the form of blue, green, and red, and it gives you an indication like whether the crop is healthy or not. On the multispectral imaging side, you can see that the entire imaging is divided into different bands, and each band are very narrow, and you can get to know whether the number of crops are there or not by the multispectral imaging. And on the hyperspectral imaging, it's a continuous band, and you will be able to differentiate between land and water or one form of thing with the another, which a multispectral imaging cannot. So hyperspectral, I would say, gives you a more precision data. It provides you more data than hyperspectral will be providing you more data than the multispectral one. Moving on. Here again, it's properly charted out here regarding the different bands that is being formed. One is the multispectral towards the left side, and on the right side, you can see a continuous spectrum that is formed, which is the hyperspectral. I will hand it over to the founder of the company, Beagle Agritech, Havyas Kudupaji, who has just joined now. Havyas, you can take over.
Hello everyone. Hope I am audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay, great. Thank you. And sorry for the delay. We were stuck with some issues, so it took us time to come in. So I hope like Ajit gave you an introduction of what the different technologies that we offer and what we do at Beagle Agritech. I'll just continue from where Ajit was presenting. So if we can go back to the
sir, you can take over now. Yeah.
If we can go back to previous slide, Pooja. So like, this is the main thing that we are working on right now. So basically the main concept of today's session was like what are the different application of drone other than the spraying. So most of you would be familiar with the application of drone based spraying, and it's quite popular, and Indian government is also promoting that. But drone is something beyond all of beyond spraying, especially in terms of agriculture. And the main role that comes in is in imaging. So when you come to imaging, as Ajit would have told you, that there are three types of imaging that we work on right now. There are multiple others also, but what we are specialized in. So we are specialized in both multispectral and thermal imaging. So what is this multispectral imaging? So basically, if you can see this image, the normal cameras, what we have will show us the three band. There is RGB band, okay, red, green, and blue. That's what we see in our naked eyes. But we use multispectral cameras that give us 6 more bands. Okay, these are the wavelength that is not visible for our naked eyes. So what this our multispectral band does is, you can go to next slide. Next slide. So how we do this is basically we'll map the area. For example, if imagine like we want to scan the land of farmer A, we'll go to that plot, we'll mark the boundaries, we'll connect the mount the multispectral camera to the drone. So basically any drone which has a capability to carry the payload of this camera can be used here. So once this is done, next slide. So we'll give the flight path and it will collect the images and come back. Then there are different wavelengths that these spectrals will be analyzed into different wavelengths. Okay, so next slide. So usually what happens is like, like why plants are green in color, because they're reflecting or emitting green color. These wavelengths will help us in collecting these wavelengths. So what happens when the plants are healthy, or if their chlorophyll content is good, they'll reflect more of green color. If plants are having any deficiency, let's imagine like there's some kind of nitrogen deficiency, then they'll start emitting other wavelengths, yellow or red. Okay, when there's a lot of damage and there's no chlorophyll content, they'll start emitting yellow to brown color, brown wavelength of the wavelength light. So what it does is once we have the images, these images will be put together. So in the image, the top section, what you're seeing, there's an image of the field where it has around more than 500 to 600 images, which you stitch together to get a one map. So this map shows, okay, which are the areas in which plants are performing well, and which areas plants are not performing well, then where are infected. Next. This is basically how the main analysis will look like. So you can see that red infected areas are the areas where there's an infection, there's some kind of stress, and green areas are where plants are performing better. Okay, but what we can't do right now with the drone is we can't identify what is that pest or what is that disease. So that is not possible to do to identify right now. But there is something that has to be done in a different manner. I'll tell you how we can do that next slide. Okay, so these are some of the analysis. So once we have these images, it can, so automosaic map is something to be called as a map put together. For example, the map which you saw in the previous slide, that is called as automosaic map. So when you click photo, a normal photo in your phone, you get a photo in a cubical form or a square form, right? Similar to that, we'll be getting images in the air in the air. So what we do is we stitch that images together and get converted into a map. So that is called as aerial imaging. So we can also convert them into 3D maps. We also using those images, we can count the biomass of the plant. We can also do the yield estimation. Next. So these are one of the few applications. So that is related to the drone. The other application also, we can use this drone for seed bombing. So this is something that we have developed where we actually use this drone for forest reforestation. Next slide. Yeah. As I told you, we can get we can do this NDVI images and we can identify which are the areas there is pest and disease infection. But in order to identify what pest and what disease or what is the problem, what is the other kind of pest that is infected in that area, we need to have an AML model for that. So that's what another area of application of this drone image. Next. So these are the major application of this AML model. So main thing is this drone images can be used in building a model for identification, classification, and quantification of the problem, any kind of stress. So you can see initially we can identify what is the problem, what leaf rest or powdery mildew, what is the disease. Once we have that, we can classify what is the percentage of infection. Okay, we can also quantify, okay, 90% infection, 20% infection. So all these are part of MI, artificial intelligence and machine learning. So what we do is we capture 10,000 images of field images of field that is infected with powdery mildew, then train them and feed them, okay, this is powdery mildew and powdery mildew. Then we take other diseases, then we train them. So once we have a model trained, then next time in this scan, automatically it will match with the previous images and tell you, okay, this is the field that is infected with powdery mildew. So this is how we can build this AML model for the disease and pest identification. Right now, the drones are not having that capability of identification. It has to be trained. It has to be built. Next. So these are the various applications. So basically for identifying pest diseases, you can also, we are also working on finding the soil fertility also. This is again with the combination of soil-based sensors. So we're trying to find the correlation. So soil is given, the soil-based sensors are giving this data and plants are behaving as such. So we're trying to correlate and identify the soil fertility. We can also do yield estimation. We have a model built for that for corn and also where we can actually scan the land and identify what is the total amount of yield that can be expected from this particular area just by scanning the field. We can also do the damage assessment for insurance companies or any kind of post calamity. If you want to see the damage assessment, so that also can be done through this drone imaging. Next slide. So let's discuss few of the use cases. Next. So this is case one. So what we have done here is we have scanned the entire village of 800 acres. So usually what happens when you go for data collection, you go there, you collect the data. How do you usually how the data is collected? You would have some question, you go talk to each farmer, then ask him some certain questions, ask what crop you're growing, then collect data. So how accurate is this data? So majority of the cases where I have seen that people, if they want to interview around 300 people, they'll interview around 30-40 individuals, then they will get they understand, okay, this is the pattern, then they'll try to copy it. Or even in general, people who have done this data collection properly, even when you go and collect the data from farmers, he will not give you the proper data. He will tell on estimate, okay, I may have an 1 acre or maybe 2 acres. So how do we get accurate data and faster? For example, like this particular project was completed in just 6 days. So 3 days was taken to scan the entire 800 acres of field. Then we actually did the processing and we got a result within another 3 days. So what we did here is we wanted to identify what in this particular village, what is the total area under which the tobacco has been cultivated. So we actually got an accuracy of 95%. How do we did it? Actually, once we have collected the data and analyzed them, we actually went on field and cross-checked them with the GPS locations. So when we matched, we got a 95% of accuracy. Next slide. This is one of the use case for the NDVI images, which I told. So we tried this in a 4-acre paddy field, where we try to identify which are the areas in which there is nutrient deficiency, and we also try to go to that spot and identify if the infection existed or not. And according to our data and all the areas where there was red depiction of red light. So when we went and cross checked with the field data, there was some kind of nutrient deficiency in all those areas. Next slide. Other area that we are also working on, that we have tried with couple of pilot projects, is for tree counting, or we call it stand counting. This is basically the applications for forest auditing and all. So we want to see like what is the total number of particular trees that is being existing in that particular area. We take the drone images, then we actually take some of the samples, train them, and when we actually take any other new images and scan them through, so we get an automatically the software will count the number of trees. So that is something that we have initially started with right now. So we have done a couple of pilot projects, and we have done one pilot project in which we have got a 92% of accuracy. But right now this is applicable only where you have a distinct where you can actually distinct the trees. For example, you have some common plantation and if you want to check them, you can do that. With the mixed plantation, it's a little difficult right now. So it needs a lot of training, a lot of training. The model needs to be trained with a lot more data. But initially right now we are doing it for any distinctable trees. That means you have any kind of plantation and you want to count the trees, that can be done with this AML model. Next slide. Pooja, next slide, please.
Are the slides not changing?
Yeah. So this is some of the applications of tree counting, where else can be used. Basically for forest auditing is one of the major application. So when you talk about forest auditing, so every year they do an auditing of the forest to identify what are the total different trees that is being available in this forest, and what is the total wealth of these trees. But physically doing it, it's not giving them accurate data. But by doing it through drone, one, we can do it faster, and we can give them accurate data, as well as we can document them, so we can have the previous data. So next year, if there's any mismatch in the data, we can go and cross check. And major advantage of all this data is like it helps us in enhanced accuracy. So it has given us accuracy in all the projects that we have done. It also helps us in doing the project in remote, in areas of in the remote areas actually, where humans can't go and do the assessment. The process is faster, as well as I told you previously, everything is documentable. Next slide. I think slide is not moving. Next slide, please. Okay, can you please go to next slide? Hello. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
Yeah, I just want to go to next slide.
Yeah, it has moved on to the next slide, I guess.
I think we're in the last couple of slides. Yeah. So with this, we'll open the session for discussion. So audience, like, you can ask me the question, any questions if you guys have. You can write it in chat box, or you can unmute and ask us.
Participants, you can drop your question in the chat box.
So audience, any questions, feel free to ask. You can put in chat box so that I'll start.
Participants can raise their hand, or they can just drop their queries in the chat box so that we can have an open discussion.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, myself is Thakur, and I am MSc Agri and having the rich experience of seed and animal feed industry. But right now, I would like to start the business of agri inputs or drone. So how you can help me? Can we? This is the separate plan to do work for drone in the field, or we can do the together work.
So anything as such, we are open for discussion. So I think we can connect offline after the session, because it's something very personal. We'll just take up the question that is very generic for all the audience. So you can take my contact number. I'll drop my or email ID or the email ID and contact number in the chat box. You can reach out to me later on, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes. Yeah, ma'am, tell me.
Hello.
Yeah, ma'am, go ahead.
Sir, actually, whatever application you have told, like they are for the forestry department. Most of them are for the forestry department. And if I talk about the farmer's point of view, that there is very less application.
See, I'll tell you why it is as such, because right now
Yes. I have seen all the presentation and I know some of the points from that presentation. But as like, I want to know that what are the major consumers of your like drone services, because
Right.
farmers, they will not be interested because there are many drawbacks. And in India, most of the farmers are like small holding farmers.
Right. So I understand that if you, I don't know if my team members spoke to the initial slides in which we had told whom do we give the services to. Right now, we are not giving the services to farmers, though the end users are farmers, but majorly we are giving the services to contract farming companies, FPOs, and agri research institutes and forest departments.
But
Why
not to the farmers, actually, not to the farmers.
We are not giving the services directly to the
like,
farmers.
Yes, because I know there is very applications of these artificial intelligence in research area. We can say for researchers and for the companies, it is very beneficial.
Right.
But for farmers' point of view, I don't think that
If you
is
can,
that much of beneficial.
can try to comprehend my answer. So I told we are giving these services to contract farming companies and FPOs. So who are there under contract farming companies and FPOs? There are multiple farmers who are contract with SCFCs and FPOs as well. So we are giving these services, but indirectly it's helping those farmers only. But farmers are not our direct clients.
Yes.
These companies and FPOs, they pay us and we give them services to them. The reason is like farmers can't analyze this data. Data has to be analyzed by some professional person who knows about this data application. So
but why everybody is promoting like it is for the farmers, and like government of India is saying that for farmers and this will be this much of this and that.
See, I'll answer this question. So why everybody is telling it's helping farmers? As Javier told, it's basically for farmer producing companies and farmer producing organizations. Who are under, see, FPO consists of 15 to 25 farmers under them, right? And then we told that drawback of drone is one major drawback is small land holding. That small land holding will be a drawback if we give a service to a single farmer, right? But then when these farmers come together and when they take service as a whole lot of farmers, the cost will not be very, expensive for them. That is why everybody is telling that it is very, beneficial for farmers.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. But actually, in my point of view, it should be like it is very beneficial. It is. I'm not having any doubt in that.
Right.
But except saying that it will be the farmers, that we should say that it will be for the researcher. Research point of view, it is very beneficial.
So it is one application.
One application.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I don't want to argue. Thank you.
I think there's some question chat box. I'll try to take them now. Can we
Yeah,
use
sir, sure.
remote sensing in drones? Like now drones are being used, are using the sunlight as a source of light. Can it have its own light source and have the same accuracy? Right now, I don't think so. This particular area, this question was asked by Akand Das. So Ankan Das, sorry. So I think if my co-founder can answer this question.
So no, this cannot work without the source of light from drone actually. You have to have sunlight as a source of light currently.
If you like to describe your question, I think you can unmute and ask. Yeah, because this is what we could try to understand from the question that you asked. And there's another question. So hello sir, do you have any do you have your own prototype of the drones or use the available ones? Which software you use to analyze the AML model? So right now the drone what we have is we have assembled our own drone. So basically we have imported the parts and we have assembled them. And coming to the software, we use the ArcGIS software. So this is an open source software, but a paid software used universally everywhere. So use that ArcGIS software to analyze the data. How can you differentiate between crop and weed using NDVI? So we can't differentiate crop and weed using NDVI. It can be differentiated only by using the RGB images. And once we have that RGB differentiation, then we have to apply the NDVI analysis for that. Drone is used for disease and pest identification. How much accurate is it? So coming to the accuracy, right now we are getting around 65 to 70% accuracy, but accuracy can be improved only when we have data. If, for example, right now we have the data trained with somewhere around 20% of the data. Increase that data to 50%, 60%, 70%. The more data we train them, the more accuracy will keep on increasing. And can it differentiate between diseases and disorders? Yes, diseases and disorders can be, it can differentiate, but we have to train the model. We need to build a model, train it, these are diseases and these are disorders, and we have to see what are those differential factors. Is it possible for us to differentiate using the visible images? Right now whatever we are building is totally through the visible images. If something that is visible through the disease and disorder difference is visible through the visible images, then we can train the model. Can I spray nano fertilizers using drones? Yes, you can spray nano fertilizers through drones, and people are already doing that. Even IFCO has also tried some of the experiments, as what I have read somewhere. Yeah.
Hello, I am Manthan from Vishabharati University, and I have asked the question: can we use the active remote sensing in drones? Actually, I think now the drones are mostly confined to the daytime only, as
Yes.
their source of light is the sunlight mainly. But I want to know that these softwares, these cameras, can we use in the night time? Because there are several problems which will face in night also.
So actually the problem using it at night is see what the data which we collect, it's also depend on the ambient light. It's not only the reflection from the leaf itself, it has to be reflected from several other sources to actually differentiate where is the leaf and where the other things are there. So that is where the problem comes in. If you try to use lights from drone itself, it will be very pointed towards. Not lighten the entire farm.
Sorry, we couldn't hear your question.
I want to know that how the drone can have its own source of light.
Okay. So right now, I don't think so. Like if any work has been done in the past, some was given from any other company. But right now, majorly daylight.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes,
Hello.
yes, please go ahead, ma'am.
My question is that most of the Indian farmers are lacking in somewhat technical knowledge. So they can't control the drone via remote. So can it become more automated, like through microchip in upcoming years or not?
So basically, this is a major problem, and for that reason, like I don't know to what extent that can be done. But since this is practically not possible, what we are doing is we are giving it on a service basis. So there are people who are specialized in this particular area. So better to farmers to approach them and take them on a service basis than he doing all the work.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, there's another question asking like how many times a sample to be trained to get the accuracy. The more is always better. The more is always better.
So for diseases, actually for tomato crop which we have done, we have taken around 5,000 images. So these 5,000 images have to be trained and divided for test set as well. Then if you will show it a disease leaf, the program will be able to judge if what kind of disease it is, or if for the tomato it will show you if it's ripened, unripened, that kind of things.
And more is always better. Like imagine like today we have built something giving you a 30-40% accuracy. As you keep on training the model, the accuracy will always increase.
So because a leaf won't look same. The data which I have given for one leaf, that again one leaf won't repeat again in that plant.
And yeah.
So different kind of same disease we'll have to give at least 1,000 times, 2,000 times. So that computer understands in different formats what exactly this disease might look like in different formats. Yeah.
So during rainy season, there's another question. So during rainy season, how the data accuracy will be? Again, see, whenever we capture data, there are certain SOPs that we follow and collect the data. That means there must be proper sunlight, and only then we'll be able to collect the data. If it is cloudy, it's not possible. We don't get good images. So even if it is cloudy, there are certain minimum light that we have as a standard. So if that is available, we call it as lux. So that much lux intensity of light is available. Only then we'll capture the data. Anything below that we won't be able to capture. So these are some of the limitations of this as
well. Sir, am I audible to you?
You're audible.
Yeah, sir, I have got a question from the participants. So someone is asking that what is the optimum flight height for good image mapping through drones?
The optimum flight height will be optimum flight height
for image mapping.
So see, if you're doing mapping, the optimum height is 80 meters to 100 meters only for the mapping. If you are trying to do tree count, it should be from top of the tree. Let's say a plantation, you have to go 30 meters above the plantation. So if your coconut tree is around 40 feet, you'll have to go 30 meter plus it. So that is how you can count that. If you're counting crops, again, you have to be 30 to 40 meters above the land. So that is how you do the crop count. So it depends on what kind of
so what is your purpose? Yeah.
And if you're doing an individual analysis, it must be much more closer.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Very good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
हाँ मैम नमस्कार, मैं गौरव कुमार पंतनगर विश्वविद्यालय से
जी बोलिए।
I am Gaurav Kumar from Pantnagar University.
जी बोलिए
सर। सर मेरा 4th ईयर है, मैं एग्रीकल्चर इंजीनियरिंग का स्टूडेंट हूँ।
हाँ जी।
मेरा क्वेश्चन सर, मैंने हैंड राइज इसलिए किया ना, दरअसल में जैसे मैंने थोड़ी देर पहले भी यही बात कही थी, शायद आप उस टाइम थे नहीं, कि जैसे 7 डेज का ये कोर्स है, तो अगर ये 70 डेज का भी हो तो हम करने के लिए रेडी हैं। बट थोड़ा सा ना अगर एक तरीके से प्रैक्टिकल नॉलेज अगर हम मिले, जैसे अभी तो हम प्रेजेंटेशन के थ्रू, जैसे मैं एक छोटा सा एग्जांपल देना चाहूंगा कि कुछ साल पहले, मतलब 30 या 40 इयर्स पहले जब कंप्यूटर आया था, तो उसको भी इसी तरीके से, मतलब एक तरीके से सॉफ्ट कॉपी की प्रेजेंटेशन आती थी कंपनीज वगैरह में या स्कूल्स में। तो बच्चों को बताया जाता था कि दिस इज ए मॉनिटर, दिस इज ए कीबोर्ड, दिस इज ए माउस, एंड इस टाइप से फिर धीरे धीरे प्रोग्रेस में आया। तो जब वो रनिंग में आया, तो मेरा कहने का मतलब ये है कि अब तो खैर टेक्निकल इन्वायरमेंट है हमारे आसपास, तो हमें कुछ ऐसा मतलब प्रोवाइड कराया जाए जो हम इसको ड्रोन को प्रैक्टिकली उसका यूज कर सकें। तो अगर कभी ऐसा मौका मिले तो मैम प्लीज आप सभी से मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है कि यूनिवर्सिटी वालों से बात करके या जैसे भी हो, तो अगर इसकी हमें प्रैक्टिकल नॉलेज मिले आफ्टर दिस टाइप ऑफ सेशन, देन शायद हम और अच्छा सीख सकते हैं।
Gaurav ji, we are already working on it, as Nitin sir and Havyas sir will also tell you कि in upcoming year we are going to collab with Beagle Agritech for some offline trainings on drone. तो हम जरूर आपको offline training आपके campus में provide करेंगे in collaboration with Beagle Agritech.
Can I take up this question? Okay. Is there there's another question? There's one more question actually. To know that there are several places in the forest which are inaccessible, and suppose there is some new strain which the AML can't recognize. In those cases, is it possible to collect a small sample of that disease portion of the? Okay, so again, you'll have only again it depends how much of this disease has spread across the forest. So how many samples I can get and train my model actually. If I have very small portion and only that is the data which I have with me, it will be difficult to spread it across the entire forest. So to understand how it operates or what is the disease or what it is, difficult. It will be very small, but it has to be spread across a larger area so that I can get more and more data and train my model on that. Is wind drift affects spraying? Yeah, it does affect the spraying. How the data will flow? Just brief. So I think if I understand the question right, so once we take the data through scanning, it goes into our memory card, which is there already on the drone. And that memory card, we use it to take the images out of into a laptop. We use it to stitch a map. So whatever area we have scanned, we'll get a map out of it. And then this map is converted into whatever analysis we want to do. So if it has to be done for say pest and disease analysis, we'll divide the entire map into different images and then train it according to our model. If it is just mapping surveying kind of a thing, we can just give that as a service to that. So that is the kind of data flow. Will first capturing the data, then transferring the data to our software, then analyzing it and giving it as a service. Any other questions?
Sir, there is a question in the chat box which I can see. So Rishikesh Kumar is asking that how Beagle is working, like you are getting any funding from government or you are doing it on your own?
Yes, we started a company. So initially when we started, we got funding from MSME to develop the drone that we have built right now. But after that, we are completely bootstrapped. So basically all the earnings that we get from the company, we are investing in that. No, that's arranged. Okay, so I think there are a couple of more questions right now. What is the right environment condition and the time to use the drone? For image capturing, it's midday, somewhere between 11 o'clock to 2:30 is the good time to collect data when sun is on right now, where there won't be any problem of the shade falling on the plants. And environment again should be during rainy season. When there's any kind of drizzling, we can't fly the drone. So any normal condition with proper sunlight, we can. There's another question. After identifying the disease and pest, how it is treated, like by manually or through the drone only? See, if you need any kind of spraying, then we can do it through drone. For example, you guys would be familiar with precision farming, right? So we will capture the images with the NDVI map. If you remember the slide which I showed, there's a red and differentiation. I have an option of marking that red area only. So I can once the map is ready, I can mark only those areas in which there is infection and ask the drone to go and do spraying only in those areas. That is also possible. But again, if this is limited to certain pest and disease, okay. If there is any other thing because of moisture, because of lack of irrigation, so then that has to be done in a different manner or manual. So again, it depends on application to application or case to case. Using drone, can I detect the spores of disease causing organism like fungus before it spreads? little difficult. As I told you earlier, anything that is actually visible to drone's eye or drone in the images, that can be done. But if it is not visible, or if it is under the leaves, or if it is in very small, if the particles are early stage, and if it is not that clearly visible in the drone, then it is not possible to identify them through drones.
But again, you can get the if the plant is deficient because of fungus or something, you can get the zone.
Because of this fungus presence, if there is any kind of behavior in the plant, imagine there's some fungus because of which there is any kind of, there's a lack of growth in the plant, and we can differentiate why this particular plot or area is performing well, why this particular area plants are not performing well. So through that we can identify, but we can't identify what is the fungus or disease. And yeah, we can't also predict that. Once we get to know, okay, this is the initial area where there's some kind of deficiency, we can go to the spot, try to identify what is the cause, and then we'll get to know, okay, these are the areas that is infected, they have high probabilities it might spread to the neighboring plots, and we can take some correction action. Another question is like, is high end drone capable of handling all surveillance, like spraying, predicting, suggesting, sending back the solution to data? This is something like it's possible. It's nothing like not possible, but right now in India we don't have this technology. But I have read a couple of places where people are working on building such technology. So any other questions? If anyone wants to ask a question, I think there are a couple of raised hands.
Yeah, so they can unmute themselves. I'm just.
Okay, there's one more question.
Hello.
Yeah, so go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Please go ahead, sir.
सर वॉइस आ रही है?
हाँ आ रही है
सर मेरा क्वेश्चन आपसे है कि राजस्थान के लगभग इलाकों में रेड जोन एरिया है, ग्रीन जोन एरिया में अपन ड्रोन टेक्नोलॉजी को एप्लीकेबल कर सकते हैं। तो अपने बात करें तो राजस्थान के लगभग एरिया रेनफेड फार्मिंग पे काम कर रहे हैं।
Hello, sir. We lost you in between, but I could understand what your question was. So basically, most of the Rajasthan area where farmers are cultivating are in red zone, and how we can actually use this drone application on it. So am I right, sir? This was your question?
हाँ जी sir.
So basically, coming to that, sir, like there are two types of different red, green, and yellow zone. Something in green we are free to do. In yellow, we can take permission and go. Again, if it is under red zone and if it's really needed, we have to approach that particular authority, take their permission, then do this service. If they don't permit us to do that, then we can't do this. This is how it works.
Yes, sir. उसके अलावा सर ये जो ड्रोन जो टेक्नोलॉजी अपना रहे हैं एग्रीकल्चर के अलावा, जो मतलब शादी के अंदर बात करते हैं, तो ये तो अपने गैर रूप से अपन अपना रहे हैं, लेकिन मोस्टली इनको क्या है कि सर्टिफिकेट तो मिल ही नहीं रहा। ये सर्टिफिकेट थोड़ी मिल रहा है इनको एप्लीकेबल करने के लिए, क्योंकि लगभग रेड जोन एरिया है तो इनको तो एप्लीकेबल करेंगे नहीं ये लोग।
रेड जोन में नहीं होने, रेड जोन में होने का कारण है सर कि डिफेंस के पर्पस से वो सही नहीं ड्रोन उड़ा रहा उसे।
हाँ बिल्कुल सर, इसके लिए मैंने देखा था, तो ये रेड जोन एरिया और ग्रीन एरिया राजस्थान के लिए, तो ये तो ज्यादातर तो क्या है सर, जो अपन गैर रूप से जो काम कर रहे हैं उनके लिए एप्लीकेबल होगा राजस्थान के लिए। तो बाकी पंजाब और हरियाणा के लिए मोस्ट इफेक्टिव रहेगा ड्रोन टेक्नोलॉजी। जैसे पहले मोदी जी ने जो ऑनलाइन करेंसी वाला स्टार्ट किया, तो उसके बेनिफिट्स अब आ रहे हैं। तो उसी तरह ड्रोन टेक्नोलॉजी के जो फ्यूचर राइट्स है वो आगे नेक्स्ट 2025-26 तक आने के चांसेस बहुत ज्यादा है।
कैसे डिफाइन होता है? एयरपोर्ट से आप अगर 10 किलोमीटर के रेडियस में है तो रेड जोन है। तो ये सब गवर्नमेंट की अंडरस्टैंडिंग है, पॉलिसी है। तो थोड़ा है तो गवर्नमेंट के ऊपर है, पॉलिसी के ऊपर उनको रिलैक्स करना पड़ेगा कि नहीं 10 किलोमीटर बहुत ज्यादा है, 3 किलोमीटर कर तो आपको रेड जोन, आपका येलो जोन हो जाएगा, ग्रीन जोन हो जाएगा। तो अगेन हम पे डिपेंड नहीं करता, गवर्नमेंट के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है कैसे वो इसको एनालाइज करते हैं, कैसे इम्पैक्ट थ्रेट एनालिसिस। इवन बॉर्डर रिलेटेड स्टेट है राजस्थान, तो मेरे को पता है मोस्टली एरिया रेड जोन होता है।
यस सर, यस सर।
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, sir, you're audible. You can ask your question now.
Yeah, most of the talk that you gave were mostly technical in nature, and a direct benefit to the farmer is, as far as you also have mentioned, is for the spraying purpose only. Other things, as you mentioned, counting of the trees or the what do you call that, imaging, thermal imaging, or pest or disease identification. Those are mostly in a research stage only, as a previous audience also talked. How do you see the future of drone technology in with respect to a direct benefit to the farmer, except other than spraying?
Yeah, got it. So coming to direct application of farmer, it is still possible. The problem is like farmers understanding, like I can scan the farmer's field, I can give the data to farmer. What will farmer do using that data? He needs to be educated. Once this is a long process. This has to happen on a collective basis from government, from private organizations, from all of us. Something that as an individual company we can't do. So where farmers has to be educated, we have to tell them what he can actually do using those data. Once he knows some of the application of this data, then we can actually scan and give him the data. Problem right now is I can go scan this NDVI images and give it to farmer. Okay, let's imagine farmer A. So if he doesn't have any background of understanding or decoding this data, then it won't be any helpful for him. That is where the major ground grassroots problem is.
Okay, what you say is correct. What I mean to convey is that, see, in many places, there is a labor shortage. Okay. Can this drone be used for carrying some load from the farmyard or from the field to the farmer's yard? Can such a technology be developed, which will be of direct benefit to the farmer?
Technically, technologically, there's such technology is possible and it's already there. Problem is right now is government regulation. Government has still not approved any kind of drone. It has to be approved from government to put it on a field. For example, Swiggy, Zomato, if you see, they are trying hard to deliver this food through drones. They're working on it. So it takes time for government has to regulate it. Right now, they are not regulated this thing because of the security threats.
Right. Thank you.
Sir, one last question which I have got and I want to ask is, what is the estimated cost of a single drone?
So single drone right now, someone wants to purchase it with all these sensors, it will cost somewhere around 7.5 to 8 lakh rupees. The spraying drone in the market is in the range of 3.5 to 4.5 lakh.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. As we are running out of time, so I think now we should conclude this session. And you can see that people are so much curious about the drones and इतना ज़्यादा उनको जानना है drones के बारे में. इतनी आपको chats में query आई, लोगों ने participants ने आपसे directly interact किया. So it was quite an interactive session. And as we are planning for the offline drone training, so it's my firm belief that it will gonna be very successful, because I can see the response here. And I just want to tell you that we have got 10,000 plus registrations for this training, and most of the people, they are watching this session live on YouTube. So it is commendable, and we'll look forward for the successful collaboration with you.
Same here. So I think you can.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for.
Anyone wants to have
Yes,
any other, you can share the email ID and they can write to us. We'll respond to them.
Yeah, we'll share your email ID and your contact number. They can contact you. And other thing that if we got some question, we will send you through email and we'll just get the answers from you. Okay, sir. So thank you so much for such an insightful session, and it was very interactive and very interesting for me as well. So thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you, Mani.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.